A young nurse bathed a millionaire in a coma. But when he suddenly woke up, something miraculous happened. The fluorescent lights of Westbridge Private Hospital buzzed faintly as Anna Monroe walked down the spotless white corridors. She had worked here for almost 2 years, yet today felt strangely different. Ever since the message arrived, summoning her to the office of Dr. Harris, the head of neurology, a quiet unease had taken root in her chest. Had she made a mistake? Was she being reassigned? Her heart thudded as she paused outside the polished mahogany door, drawing a steady breath before knocking. "Come in," came the voice. Inside, Dr. Harris stood by the window, his posture rigid, his sharp eyes lost in the city skyline. His office smelled of antiseptic and expensive leather, but the air carried a heavier weight than usual. "Anna," he said at last, turning toward her. His voice was low, deliberate. "We have a patient who requires special care, but this assignment is not for the weak-hearted." Her brows knit together. "Not for the weak-hearted? What kind of patient?" she asked cautiously. Without a word, he gestured toward a thick medical file resting on his desk. She stepped closer and froze as her eyes landed on the name stamped across the front, Grant Carter. Her breath caught. The Grant Carter. Even if she hadn't recognized it instantly, the clipped newspaper article taped to the cover revealed everything. A mangled sports car, flames licking the bridge, headlines screaming tragedy. A year ago, the youngest billionaire in the city had plummeted into a coma after the crash that shocked the world. Once hailed as the ruthless, unstoppable CEO of Carter Enterprises, a man who built an empire by the age of 32, now he was reduced to nothing more than a silent figure tethered to machines. His family rarely visits, Dr. Harris explained. Most of the staff only stop by out of duty. But Carter needs more than that. He needs someone who cares. Anna bit her lip, torn. The weight in the doctor's voice told her he wasn't asking lightly. "And you think that person is me?" she whispered. "I do," he replied simply. She hesitated. "To care for a man who might never wake, a man whose power once ruled boardrooms and headlines." But deep down, she already knew her answer. "I'll do it." A flicker of approval softened Dr. Harris's stern expression. "Good. Your first shift starts tonight." The private suite on the hospital's top floor was unlike any other patient's room. It breathed wealth. Chandeliers glowing softly overhead, dark oak furniture gleaming in the lamplight, and silence so thick it pressed against the walls. And in the center of it all lay Grant Carter. Anna's breath hitched. Even in stillness he was striking. Strong jawline, dark lashes brushing pale skin, broad shoulders beneath the thin hospital gown. If not for the stillness of his chest rising only with the machines, he could have been mistaken for a man peacefully sleeping. But this was no ordinary sleep. This was a prison of silence. She approached quietly, adjusting his IV before dipping a warm cloth into the basin. For a moment her hand trembled. Then, with slow care, she pressed it against his skin. A shiver rippled through her spine. Something she couldn't explain. Almost as if he felt her there, the heart monitor gave its steady beep, filling the room. She shook off the feeling and continued, gently wiping his arms, his chest, keeping his body alive when his mind could not. "You don't get a say in this, huh?" she whispered with a faint smile. "I'll take that as a no." The days became a rhythm. Morning and night, she bathed him, changed his sheets, checked his vitals. But soon her care turned into something else. She found herself talking to him about her day, about the world outside his window. "You should try the cafeteria food, Grant. Even billionaires wouldn't survive it," she teased one night, smiling at her own joke. Silence. "Maybe I just like the sound of my own voice," she sighed. Silence again. "Or maybe," she murmured, glancing at the rhythmic heartbeat flashing on the monitor, "you're actually listening." The machine's steady beeping almost sounded like an answer, and maybe, just maybe, it was. Anna's fingers moved carefully, wiping Grant's face with steady, gentle strokes. "You know," she whispered, her voice soft but teasing, "I read somewhere that people in comas can still hear things, which technically makes you the worst listener I've ever met." Of course, there was no reply, just silence. she sighed, shaking her head. It's okay. I'm used to talking to myself now. Her cloth brushed along the curve of his jaw when something caught her eye. A flicker, a movement. Anna froze. Her breath hitched as her gaze dropped to his hand. Had his fingers just moved? The stillness returned. The pale hand lay perfectly motionless against the crisp white sheets. A nervous laugh slipped out. Great, now I'm hallucinating. Maybe I'm the one who needs a hospital bed. But the unease didn't leave her. Over the next few days it happened again. The second time she wasn't even watching. She was adjusting his pillow when she felt it, a faint, almost imperceptible pressure against her wrist. Her head snapped down. Grant's hand had shifted. Just a fraction. Barely anything, but enough to flip her stomach. Grant, she whispered, his name slipping out without thought. Silence. Only the steady beep, beep, beep of the monitor answered. She placed her hand over his, testing. Warm. Still, no more movement. Am I imagining this? Or is something changing? Anna couldn't shake it, so she went straight to Dr. Harris. He moved, she blurted out. The doctor's brow arched. Moved? I think so. At first I thought I was imagining it, but it keeps happening. His fingers twitch. His hand shifts. It's small, but it's there. Dr. Harris leaned back, thoughtful. We'll run some tests. But don't get your hopes up too high, Anna. These things are often just reflexes. She nodded, but inside she didn't believe him. She felt something was happening. When the test results came in, she wasn't surprised. There's increased brain activity, Dr. Harris admitted. His neurological responses are stronger than before. Anna's heart leaped. So he's waking up? Not necessarily, the doctor warned. It could mean many things, but it's a good sign. It wasn't the answer she wanted, but it was enough. That night she sat by his bed longer than usual. I don't know if you can hear me, Grant, she whispered, but something tells me you can. She looked at his still, sharp features, the unmoving face she'd grown so familiar with. For the first time, though, it didn't feel like she was alone in the room, so she kept talking. About her day, about the rude doctor who always stole her coffee, about her childhood in a small town and the dream that pushed her to become a nurse. And somewhere, deep in the silence of his coma, Grant Carter listened. The morning sun spilled through the tall windows, washing the room in golden light. The steady beep of the monitor carried on like it always had, a rhythm Anna had grown numb to. She rolled up her sleeves, dipping the cloth into the warm basin. Just another routine bath. Just another day with a man who might never answer her. You know, Grant, she said, her smile faint. I was thinking of getting a dog. Someone to listen to me who won't just lie there and ignore me all day. Silence. Rude, she muttered with a sigh. I was only making conversation. She reached for his arm, her fingers brushing against his wrist as she wiped his skin. And then it happened. His fingers tightened around her wrist. Anna froze. Her heart slammed against her ribs, her breath strangled in her throat. The grip was faint, weak, hesitant, but it was real. Her pulse roared in her ears. She wanted to dismiss it, call it another reflex. But it wasn't. She knew it wasn't because a second later Grant's eyes snapped open. For a moment she couldn't move, couldn't breathe, couldn't think. She had spent months staring at those closed eyelids, begging for even the smallest flicker. And now those deep ocean blue eyes were staring back at her, unfocused, vulnerable, confused, but alive. Grant's lips parted. His voice was raspy, barely a whisper, but enough to shatter the silence. Comp, any. Anna's entire body locked up, her knees threatening to buckle. He spoke, he woke up. The impossible had just happened. The basin of water slipped from her trembling hands, crashing to the pristine floor. She stumbled backward, her breath caught between disbelief and panic. Oh my God, her instincts kicked in. She spun and slammed her hand against the emergency button. The alarm blared through the halls. Seconds later, the door burst open. A team of doctors and nurses stormed inside, Dr. Harris leading the charge. What happened? He demanded, already leaning over Grant, checking vitals with rapid precision. Anna's voice shook. He grabbed my hand. He opened his eyes. Her words trailed off as she glanced at Grant, still unable to believe what she was seeing. His chest rose and fell in shaky breaths. His eyes darted around the room unfocused, as if trying to piece together where he was, what was happening. He wasn't fully aware, not yet, but he was here. Dr. Harris's face shifted from shock to action. "Get me a neurological team now." The room exploded into motion. Nurses scrambled, machines beeped, orders were shouted. Amid the whirlwind, Anna stood frozen, her gaze locked on Grant. And then, his eyes found hers. For a heartbeat, everything else disappeared. Doctors shined lights into his pupils, lifted his arms, asked questions, but through it all, Grant's gaze drifted back again and again. To Anna, her heart thundered. She swallowed hard and stepped closer. "Grant," she whispered, "do you remember anything?" He blinked slowly, his eyes struggling to focus. Silence stretched, heavy and unbearable. Then his fingers twitched, and weakly, deliberately, his hand reached for hers. Anna's breath caught. His grip was fragile, trembling, but real, Dr. Harris noticed instantly. "Grant, do you know who she is?" Grant's brows furrowed, his gaze never leaving Anna's. A long pause. Then, hoarse and uncertain, he murmured, "I don't know, but I feel like I should." A chill raced down Anna's spine. He didn't know her, yet something deep inside him recognized her all the same. The days after Grant's miraculous awakening were filled with endless questions, therapy sessions, and medical tests. Doctors marveled at his recovery. Physically, he was weak, his muscles stiff from a year of stillness, but rehabilitation brought progress. Step by step, strength returned. Mentally, though, it was different. Grant couldn't remember anything about the accident. The more they pressed him, the more frustration clouded his sharp blue eyes. "Let's try again," Dr. Harris urged during one session. "What's the last thing you recall?" Grant rubbed his temples, his voice tight. I don't know. Nothing clear. Anything at all?" Dr. Harris pressed. "Where you were? What you were doing?" Grant exhaled sharply. "I told you, it's just pieces, flashes. Tell me about them," Dr. Harris said gently. A long silence followed. Grant closed his eyes, his brows drawn. "I remember a feeling, like something was wrong, like I was in danger." His fingers clenched against the bedsheet. There was a road, headlights, and then nothing, just black. Dr. Harris sighed. "It's common. Trauma victims block out memories. They may return in time. For now, we focus on recovery." Grant nodded, but Anna saw the tension in his jaw, his frustration, and deep inside she couldn't shake the sense that something wasn't right. That night, unable to let it go, Anna went to the hospital archives. She had read Grant's file before, but now she combed through every page with sharp, restless eyes. And then she found it, the report from the accident reconstruction team. Her stomach dropped as she read the words. The brakes hadn't failed. They'd been tampered with. A chill rippled through her. This wasn't an accident. Someone had wanted Grant Carter dead, and he had no idea. Taking a shaky breath, she closed the file. She would have to tell him, because if someone had tried once, they might try again. Grant's recovery accelerated faster than anyone expected. In weeks, he went from bedridden to sitting up, eating and speaking in full sentences. With the help of therapy, he was learning to walk again, and Anna was there. Through every stumble, every frustrated growl, every near give-up. "I can't do this," Grant muttered, gripping the parallel bars, sweat beading on his brow. "Yes, you can," Anna said firmly, standing close. "You've already come this far. Don't stop now." He turned his head, his breathing ragged. She wasn't just giving him empty encouragement. She meant every word. And that belief lit a spark in him. With a deep exhale, Grant pushed forward, his leg trembling but steady. Anna's face broke into a radiant smile. "That's it!" For the first time since waking, Grant's lips curved into a genuine smile. Not polite, not forced, but alive. And in that moment, he knew exactly who to thank. Anna Monroe wasn't like the others. She wasn't just his nurse. She was something more. She never treated him like a charity case. She didn't see a billionaire trapped in a bed or a headline. She saw Grant, messy, stubborn, painfully human. That's why he found himself drifting toward her presence whenever she was near. The world seemed to breathe easier when she spoke. Her voice pulled him out of the dark fog that still clung to his thoughts. Whenever she steadied his arm as he learned to walk or smoothed the pillow behind his head, his skin pricked with something he couldn't name. One night, after a brutal therapy session that left his legs jelly and his jaw sore from gritting, Anna suggested they step outside. "Fresh air might do you good," she said with a small smile. Grant agreed, expecting routine. He didn't expect the night to feel like the first time he'd ever been allowed to be just a person. Outside the hospital walls, the world felt softer. Cool air, trees whispering in the breeze, moonlight pooling across the footpath. For the first time since the crash, he didn't feel like a patient or a mystery, just a man walking beside a woman. Anna walked slowly, arm hooked gently through his for support. At first he thought it was professional care, but then he noticed how her fingers lingered at his wrist, the way she stole glances when she thought he wasn't looking, the tiny hitch in her breath when he stepped too close, and suddenly he knew. She felt it too. They paused by a low stone bench. Moonlight cut the garden into silver and shadow. Grant turned to her, his heart beating for a different reason now. Anna opened her mouth as if to say something, and then Grant reached out and took her hand. Her lips parted in surprise, eyes searching his. "I don't remember anything before this," he admitted, voice rough, honest. "But I know one thing." His grip tightened around her fingers. "I trust you." Simple words, but to him they held a world. Anna's breath hitched, cheeks flushing under the moon's glow. She didn't pull away. For the moment, that was enough. That night, sleep betrayed him. He tossed and turned, mind racing until a violent flash tore through him, a memory like a dam breaking. Rain hard and relentless, windshield glass beading with water. The meeting that had left him jittery, headlights suddenly overwhelming, too close. A black shape veering into his lane. He yanked the wheel, tires screamed on slick asphalt. The brakes didn't respond. Panic roared, and then, at the roadside, a shadowy figure standing perfectly still, watching. Then nothing. Black. Grant's eyes snapped open. He gasped, lungs burning, sweat cold on his back. The memory had been so sharp it felt like it had just happened. Now he knew this had not been random. Someone had tried to kill him. Anna saw it the moment she walked into his room the next morning. He was different. The playful smirk gone, replaced by a tautness that made his fingers white where they clenched. "Grant?" she asked softly. "What's wrong?" His blue eyes locked on hers with a new kind of intensity. "I remember something," he said, voice low. "The accident." He gave a tight nod. "It wasn't an accident. Someone tampered with my brakes." He swallowed hard. "There was a man on the side of the road. He just watched as my car went off." A cold thread ran down Anna's spine. Everything she had suspected, the weird little movements, the odd test results, the way the crash report had seemed off, snapped into place. Whoever had done this had planned it. Someone wanted Grant gone. They spent the next days like detectives, sifting through files, company ledgers, security logs, anything that could point to who wanted him dead. Then finally a transfer, a large sum wired days before the crash. The recipient's name was on a watch list, a fixer known for staging accidents. And the sender? Nathan Carter, Grant's half-brother. The realization hit hard. It was him, Grant whispered, gripping the edge of the table until his knuckles hurt. Nathan wanted you dead." Anna's voice trembled, equal parts anger and disbelief. Grant's jaw tightened into a hard line. Nathan had always been the shadow to Grant's spotlight, jealous, resentful, the one who'd always called him lucky with a bitter smile. Now jealousy had turned lethal. That evening they arranged to confront Nathan in person. The Carter estate felt colder inside than the hospital had. In a dim study heavy with old money and older secrets, Nathan lounged in a leather chair, a glass of whiskey swirling in his hand. The firelight threw hard lines across his face. Well, Nathan drawled as Grant and Anna entered, a smirk curling his lips. "The dead man walks." Grant's eyes burned. He stepped forward, every inch of him focused, not on the inherited empire or the wealth around them, but on the man who had tried to erase him. The room tightened with the hush of a storm about to break. Why? Grant's voice trembled with fury. Why did you do it, Nathan? Nathan swirled his glass lazily, taking a slow sip before answering. You already know why. Anna stepped forward, her voice cutting through the tension. You tried to kill your own brother. For what, money? Power? The smirk slipped from Nathan's face, replaced by venom. For everything that should have been mine. His voice cracked with rage. You were always the golden child, the heir, the one who got everything handed to him. And me, I was left waiting in the shadows. Well, I was done waiting. Grant's fists curled at his sides. So you sabotaged my car. You hired someone to make sure I never came back. Nathan laughed, low and cold. I didn't think you'd survive. But hey, miracles happen, right? Anna's blood boiled, but before she could speak, the study door burst open. 2 uniformed officers stormed in, their presence filling the room with authority. Nathan Carter, one of them announced firmly. You're under arrest for attempted murder. Nathan spun around, panic flashing across his face. What? No, you set me up! Grant tilted his head, his eyes hard. No, brother. You set yourself up. The officers wrenched Nathan from his chair, snapping cold steel cuffs around his wrists. He struggled, cursing, spitting empty threats as they dragged him out. The door slammed shut behind them and suddenly the room was silent. Grant exhaled, shoulders sagging. For the first time since he'd opened his eyes in that hospital bed, the weight lifted. It was over. Justice had finally been served. The Carter estate had always been a cold fortress, dripping with wealth but starved of warmth. Yet tonight, as Anna stepped into the candlelit dining hall, it felt different, softer, intimate. Golden candlelight flickered across a perfectly set table for 2, the city skyline glowing beyond the wide glass windows. Roses perfumed the air. A bottle of wine chilled in crystal, untouched but waiting. Anna's breath caught. Grant, what is all this? She whispered, turning to him. Grant stood just behind her, hands tucked into his pockets, blue eyes burning with quiet intensity. Dinner, he said simply. Just you and me. Her chest tightened. For weeks they had been caught in a storm. His recovery, the investigation, the betrayal, the arrest. But tonight there was only this stillness, and somehow that felt even scarier. They sat, and Anna noticed how his gaze lingered on her, like he was memorizing every detail, committing her to memory as though she were something fragile and priceless. You're quiet, she teased gently, trying to lighten the air. That's not like you. He exhaled, swirling the wine in his glass. I've been thinking, she smiled. That's even more dangerous, but he didn't laugh. Instead, he leaned closer, his voice low and unshakable. Do you know how many people abandoned me while I was in that coma? Her smile faded. She didn't need to imagine. She had seen it. The way his family treated him as a burden, how friends drifted away, how even the staff had lost hope. But you didn't, Grant murmured. His eyes glistened as his hand brushed against hers across the table. You stayed, day after day, when I couldn't move, when I couldn't speak, when I was nothing but a lost cause. You refused to give up on me. Anna's throat tightened. She had never seen it that way. She had simply done what her heart told her. But to him, it meant the world. Grant's fingers slid fully into hers, his thumb tracing soft circles against her skin. Anna, he whispered, his voice shaking now. I have everything. Money, power, influence. But none of it matters without you. I don't know when it started. I don't know how it happened. All I know is that every moment I was trapped in the dark, it was you who kept me alive. You were my light. Anna's eyes burned with tears. I love you, he said simply. The word slammed into her chest, stealing her breath. She had felt it too for so long, but hearing it from him made it undeniable, real. This wasn't the ruthless CEO the world knew. This was Grant Carter, stripped of armor, offering his heart. Her tears slipped free, but her smile broke through them. Grant, you have no idea how much that means to me. His hand rose, brushing the tear from her cheek with the gentlest touch. His forehead lowered to rest against hers. Then let me show you, he whispered, and in that fragile, perfect moment Anna knew this wasn't an ending. It was the beginning. Grant Carter was no longer the broken man fighting for every breath in a hospital bed. He had rebuilt himself piece by piece, and now, standing tall at the head of the Carter Enterprises boardroom, he was once again the man the world recognized, a leader, a survivor. But this time he wasn't standing alone. This time he had Anna, and soon, if fate allowed, she would be his forever. The rooftop of the Carter estate glowed beneath the setting sun, golden light spilling across the skyline like fire melting into the horizon. Anna stood at the edge, her dress fluttering in the gentle breeze, her eyes wide with wonder. "It's beautiful up here," she murmured, her voice soft, almost lost in the wind. Grant stepped behind her, watching her more intently than the view. "Not as beautiful as you," he said quietly. She turned, rolling her eyes with a playful smile. "Smooth, Carter. Very smooth." But the teasing faded when she saw his expression. His eyes held something deeper that night, a weight, a certainty, something infinite. Before she could speak, Grant drew a steady breath. And then slowly, deliberately, he lowered to one knee. Anna gasped, her hands flying to her mouth as time seemed to stop. From his pocket, Grant revealed a small velvet box, flipping it open to reveal a diamond ring that sparkled like captured starlight. But it wasn't the diamond that stole her breath, it was the man holding it. The tremor in his voice, the rawness in his eyes. "Anna," he whispered, his words unsteady but strong, "you didn't just save my life. You became my life. Before you I had everything, money, power, success, but I was empty, missing something I didn't even know I needed, missing you." Tears blurred Anna's vision as her heart pounded against her chest. "You were the reason I fought," he continued, voice breaking. "The reason I came back, and now I want to spend every day making sure you know how much you mean to me. Anna Monroe, will you marry me?" The world around her fell away. The city, the sky, even the setting sun. All that existed was him. With laughter tangled in sobs, she nodded over and over, tears spilling freely. "Yes," she cried out. "Yes, Grant, 1,000 times yes." Relief washed over his face as he slipped the ring onto her trembling hand, then pulled her into his arms, into his world, into forever. Their lips met beneath the fading glow of dusk, sealing a promise neither storm nor shadow could ever break. The Carter estate had never been so alive as it was on their wedding day. The gardens were transformed into a fairy tale. Rows of white roses lined every pathway. Twinkling lights draped over towering oaks, and soft music floated through the air like whispers of magic. At the grand entrance, Anna stood radiant in a flowing white gown, her bouquet trembling slightly in her hands. "Are you ready?" Lisa, her maid of honor, whispered. Anna drew a deep breath, then lifted her gaze. At the altar, Grant waited in a classic black tuxedo, his eyes locked on her as if she were the only soul in the world. Her nerves melted away. With each step down the aisle, certainty filled her. This was her forever. When she reached him, Grant took her hands, his eyes glistening with unguarded love. Their vows followed, each word more powerful than the last. Promises not just spoken, but etched in the bond forged through fire, loss, and unyielding devotion. "I now pronounce you husband and wife," the officiant declared. Cheers erupted, and Grant cupped her face, pressing a kiss to her lips that silenced the world. It was tender, unshakable, eternal. Later, as the sun melted into twilight, Grant and Anna slipped away from the crowd, strolling hand in hand through the glowing gardens. No more hospitals, no more loneliness, no more fear. Just them, together, always. "You know," Grant murmured, squeezing her hand, "I thought I had everything before I met you." Anna leaned her head against his shoulder, smiling softly. "And now?" He looked down at her, his eyes filled with endless devotion. "Now I know none of it mattered. Because you are the greatest thing that ever happened to me." Her eyes shimmered as tears slipped free, not of pain but of joy. And as they stepped forward into the golden glow of forever, she knew they had endured storms, shadows, and near death itself. But love had won. With Grant by her side, Anna was finally home. Grant and Anna's story is proof of something powerful. Love is not just about finding someone, but standing by them through every storm. Anna never gave up on him, even when the world had, and in the end it wasn't money or power or legacy that saved him. It was love. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to HOA-GLORIOUS Stories for more emotional and inspiring tales. Turn on notifications so you never miss a story that could move your soul. And remember, sometimes the most beautiful love stories begin in the most unexpected ways.